Welcome to the Life with People podcast. This podcast is about finding, building, rebuilding, and reimagining community. My hope is that these conversations encourage you in your reach for connection and community wherever you find yourself. This is the second episode in a series of conversations focused on the topic of grief and how we can hold space for it in our relationships. In this episode, I sit down with Ceci Frost to talk about her own journey with grief. Ceci's story uniquely positions her to talk about how different but similar losses can affect us in varying seasons of our lives, how to embrace people who are showing up for you, even if those people are not the people you expected, and how to accept that there is no right or wrong way to grieve. I really enjoyed my conversation with Ceci, and I hope that her passion for this topic gives you added insight on how to walk with people who are grieving and courage as you continue to do life with people right where you are. Let's jump in.
Scene starting.
Go. All right. All right. Welcome back to the Life with People podcast. I'm here with my friend Ceci Frost, and we are in the middle of a series on walking with people and with ourselves through grief. And so Ceci has agreed to spend some time with me today and to talk about her own experiences. And I'm so excited about it. Honestly, I'm really, really honored that you're here, Ceci. It's such a small world.
So small, my gosh.
So small. I've known Ceci since she was a little girl. We grew up in the same church together.
Pretty sure you babysat me a couple times.
I think I did. And I was thinking about you on my way here. Ceci's mom was a really big part of my church community. My baby brother was in her children's church class and loved her. And anyway,
sweet. It's so wild. It's so wild. And then after all these years to just both end up in Ventura.
Yeah. So crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ceci, would love to hear a little bit of who you are, just little intro, who you are, what you're doing these days. I approached you for the podcast for a couple reasons. We're going to talk about grief today, but another one being coastal co-working. So yeah, just give us a little snippet, little snapshot into your world.
It's so weird to describe yourself.
I have your bio too.
You have a bio? Okay. Wow, that's great. You're prepared. Okay. Yes, my name is Ceci Frost, and I am really passionate about this grief topic and supporting grievers. And I am professionally an associate marriage and family therapist that specializes in grief, life transition, and couples. I also am a small business owner. I own Coastal Co-working and a photographer, just honestly your typical creative entrepreneur that has a hard time not starting projects.
Ceci, you mentioned that you are a marriage and family therapist, and your three main areas of focus are grief, premarital and couples, and life transitions. I'm curious what drew you to these three specific areas.
So when I was 18, my mom passed away by her third battle with cancer, and that propelled me towards really feeling led to wanting to be there for other grievers, people who felt maybe lonely or maybe crazy in their grief. And that has a huge impact and factor of why I pursued this. I definitely did, I was not like 15 waking up being like, I want to be a grief therapist. I don't know if that ever sounds exciting to anyone. But my own loss at 18, slowly into my early 20s, started writing about my grief more publicly in blog form, and then self-publishing a book about my grief and my relationship with my mom. Ended up starting an online support group, just doing really as much as I can with my heart and my passion, but kept finding like a roadblock where I needed a degree and where I needed to go back to school. I could only go so far because it sounded really appealing to maybe work in a school system or a hospital setting professionally and clinically, and passion and experience couldn't get me there. I needed to go back to school for that. So that really launched it. So then in 2020, when everyone's life got magnified and analyzed and everything came to the surface, I was in my own therapy session, and she was like, maybe you should go back to school, like go to grad school to be a therapist. And I was like, whoa, I don't know. But it made so much sense. It's like a combination of study and research and academia mixed with my heart and passion and lived experience, and making a beautiful combination to bring it into more clinical settings. So I said, okay. So started grad school in the middle of COVID online. And then 4 months later, my remaining parent died. And I was like, I don't know if I actually can finish school. I don't know if I want to go back. I don't know if I want to be there for grievers. I found myself right back in the position of the demographic I went to school to help. And then I was in that position myself. So it became really difficult, to say the least, to even begin to go back to school and finish. And so I took a break, and my own mental health had pretty intense challenges. And I took some time off, which I don't regret, and just slowly finished grad school. Then ended up at a traineeship at a grief center. Everyone around me thought I was kind of crazy. They were like, your dad just died. Your mental health went really south. And now you want to be at a grief center? Like, you're crazy. But honestly, it's the only thing that felt right. Like sitting in the same room as people that were just grieving and longing for the loved one or didn't know what to do. And it felt right. It felt meaningful. It felt like the right place to be. And it felt safe. I had great mentors, great supervisor, and I have no regrets of working at the grief center during traineeship. So it was a good placement for that. Um, and then that's like the path to be a grief therapist, and wanted to really hone in on that and market it as my main demographic. But I also love life transitions. Everyone will go through one, just like grief is also universal, but everyone will go through life transitions. Particularly love brainstorming and helping people think of what's next, what's brewing, what do you want? Not what do you have to do, but like, what do you really want? And just like get a whiteboard, brain dump, go for it, and figure out the motives of why and any suppressed dreams of about what you want to do. So I love life transitions, which also could incorporate though, that's not always so glamorous and fun.
Sure.
It's moving cities, coming out of divorce. It could be going into parenthood for the first time. There are other transitions of life that need a lot of support. Then couples. I have been married for 12 years and have majorly benefited from couples therapy in and out of our whole marriage. And so I felt really passionate about also being in that space, and really stoked to learn more about the Gottman method, which is a really popular modality in the therapy world. They have like over 40 years of research and great information and resources. So it's kind of my path to each one.
Okay.
I could talk forever about all of them.
I love it. To combine a couple of them real quick before I forget
Mhm.
this question popped in my mind. Because I know sometimes couples are grieving together.
For sure.
Sometimes one person is going through an
Yeah.
extreme loss, and the other one can only relate or sympathize as much as they can, right?
For sure.
Grief and loss, even the same loss,
Yeah.
is going to hit two different people completely differently.
Yeah.
So, what would you say? Say I'm sitting here with a significant other, and I'm at ground zero.
Mhm.
I'm in the midst of early grief.
Yeah.
What would you say to my partner?
Oh, I don't think it's that black and white. Like, I would want to know so many more things.
Sure.
Like who was the person that you lost? Have you guys experienced any other losses together?
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been together? There's like so many other things I would want to know.
Okay.
And I would want to know, like, how are you coping? How is your partner coping?
Mm-hmm.
And then validate and educate that everyone grieves differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say this, I say it's like all the time, every week. And I truly believe that, like, there's no right or wrong way to grieve,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a healthy way that is unique to you,
Mm-hmm.
because you have your own personality, but you also had your own relationship with the person. And so therefore your loss and your grief experience is going to be completely different. I think a common situation people come in for as far as couples in grief is they lost a child, and generally their pace is different, and that's okay, and so there's just lots of questions I would want to ask, and there's lots of things I would validate
Sure.
and then educate on and normalize too, and then support where I can of how can I support you while you support your partner, as you're in different stages and paces, because that's bound to happen, you know.
That's good.
Yeah.
Can I turn the table a little bit and make it a little more personal to you?
For sure.
So I know when you lost your mom,
Mhm.
Kyle wasn't in your life.
No.
He was coming soon, but he wasn't in your life yet.
Yeah,
But
very
when you lost, but when you lost your dad,
Yeah.
he was.
Mhm.
So in that season,
Yeah.
can you give us an example of a way that you grew and grieved together?
Yeah. So I met Kyle when I was 18, and 2 months later, my mom died. So he actually never met her, but we were on the same campus. We weren't dating or anything romantic at all. We were just friends. And he, from a very first loss in a very young age, I think the gift is he actually got to see that raw piece of me way back then and got a glimpse of 18-year-old grieving Cece. So he could really connect that years later when we would start dating and then get married. So it was personal to him. And I'm really thankful that we did get to connect early in that age. Um, and then we were both 30 when my dad died. And by that time, Kyle has walked with me through so much grief because we got married really young, and I was still figuring out my grief, still befriending it, still healing, like always healing and always befriending our grief. Getting married obviously brought up a lot of grief with my mom and how to navigate that. Every time I moved, it was just like anytime there's transition, there's potential to bring up things and other losses because moving can feel like a weird loss, and then it makes you think of other losses. So by the time my dad had died, all that to say, Kyle had walked with me through a lot of grief, a lot of really raw moments, and has really, really learned, and I appreciate, learned how to be there for me. He's learned how to listen, not to fix, how to support me and give space to me and not be scared either of my grief, like, oh gosh, her mom died 10 years ago, why is she still crying? That wasn't on the table at all. It was like, oh, of course, like, what do you need? So we have had a lot of experience in that. When my dad died, Kyle was obviously really devastated himself, which is a contrast of when my mom died. He was heavy-hearted for his friend, but now it was like he had his own relationship with my dad, his father-in-law.
Right.
And so he was really devastated, and so he had his own grief while supporting his grieving wife. But his impact was a little bit different since it was his father-in-law, not his remaining parent himself.
Right.
So we're of course on different paces.
Right.
But I think it brought us together even more so. But there were definitely a couple times where it was very clear that our paces are very different right now. And Kyle has the bandwidth and the mental health to think about the future, and I don't. And I'm just like still not there, so like those things would come up. So, area of growth of communication and needs and patience. Yeah, it's so much actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've been in Ventura for a while at that point, had a pretty good social structure. And that is the way that you guys grieved together and learned to communicate and stuff. How was it for you communicating with your community and those around you? And it wasn't too long after COVID.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was still in COVID.
Okay.
There were still hospital rules for COVID. Like when my dad was in the hospital, we couldn't visit him.
Oh man, I'm so
We only
sorry.
could when it was like he was actually dying.
That really is
So it was definitely in the midst still.
Yeah.
But after when my mom died, I had great community. I was still in my hometown. There was still the local church around me that were like filled with my mom's friends, amazing community. But after my dad died, our community unfortunately like fizzled out. I think there's a lot of variables there. You know, we were in the midst of COVID.
Yeah.
I was 30 versus 18, and some people started having kids right around then. So to be open-minded.
Well, and I think too, I've noticed this as I've gotten older. I think sometimes people assume like, oh, they're an adult now.
Right.
They're okay. But
Yeah.
it's like, no, they're still an adult going through a very hard thing. Like,
Yes.
kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And to be open-minded, I'm like, okay, yes, I hear there was like lots of variables.
Sure.
But yes, unfortunately, our community fizzled out and our church support was pretty, I would say, absent.
Okay.
And maybe it was the culture of that church we were attending at the time, or maybe it was COVID, maybe
Sure.
it's having full lives. I don't know, but
Sure.
that
Yeah.
was surprising.
Yeah.
And I will absolutely say and give credit where credit is due. A couple friends maybe checked in up to like 6 months, then fizzled, and then one friend maybe kept in touch for like a little over a year and then fell off the face of the earth.
Right.
So I'm really passionate about this area and like my grievers when they are noticing their friends changing and their friend group changing because their friends aren't showing up or asking or checking in, or the funeral is done so no one checks in, or it's been 6 months and there's less texts, or people just like don't know what to do with you.
Right. You're untouchable a little bit.
Yeah, and it is unique to be 30 and parentless. And like I think people sometimes don't know what to do with you and don't know what to say. And I think sometimes also church culture doesn't know what to do with sadness and wants to focus on like the silver linings, which I am really allergic to.
You're like,
Highly allergic to silver linings. I did not have bandwidth though to be like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while.
Right.
Like my mental health, I felt like I was drowning, and I did reach some really dark places, and I didn't have the bandwidth. And I'm really passionate. I tell this to my clients that like it's also not your job right now. Like that's okay.
Right.
But it was upsetting, of course, at the time. And so my therapist encouraged me to focus on the people who are expressing care. And that may not be the people who you thought.
Right.
And in that, I have gained new friendships. Like in the passing of my dad, I gained a handful of really solid friends that kind of came out of nowhere, but expressed that they cared. And we're still friends to this day. And so I encourage people in that way of focus on who's showing up for you.
Yeah.
And it may not be the friend who's been around for the last 5+ years. And that's
Right.
disappointing for sure. But it's also not your job to check in on other people
Right.
and letting them know,
Right.
hey, I need help. Like
Right.
you literally don't have bandwidth or words sometimes to do that.
Yeah.
But I think community is so important. I do.
Yeah. My friend Noelle, in our interview, as I was asking her what can people do to help walk with people in grief, she said, whatever you can do to unburden the griever, because they're already carrying so much.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna stop by, do what you can to help them not have to make any extra decisions.
Yeah.
Like, like all
So
the kind of
good.
just kind of talking about how you don't have the capacity.
Yeah, no.
You don't even know what you need most of the time.
Yeah.
So I think that's really insightful.
Yeah.
And in life, whether it's grief or a lost relationship or like whatever, relationships and friendships do transition.
They do.
And it really, sometimes it is a grief moment where some of those big transitions are happening.
Yeah.
And it's pain. That's another kind of loss, another kind of
It
grief.
is a secondary loss when you lose your friend group. And it can be really triggering.
Yeah.
And it is unfortunate, but it does show you then who is there for the long haul. And there's this really good visual that I found, I forget where, but there are like 3 types of friends. There are leaves, branches, and roots. And leaf friends are like seasonal. Branches break under pressure, and roots are there for the long haul. And I think that's a beautiful picture of categorizing your friends and knowing like, okay, yeah, these are the root friends then. And now I know.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's crazy because on one hand, we can't be all things to all people. On the other hand, it's like when you find those root friends, it's like it's like, all right, cool. Like I'm digging deeper and you're with me, man. That's a very beautiful picture.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who is coming to you with that pain of secondary loss of feeling like their community has failed them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of like what I already said, which is like one, it's super, this is a secondary loss.
Yeah.
It's really, really valid, and it is okay that this hurts. Like this is real, and it's really disappointing.
Yeah.
For sure. It's super disappointing. The people you've invested in and you thought would be there for you and maybe you showed up for, then aren't there for you. That's really valid. Um, the area of growth is challenging yourself to focus on who maybe in the slightest way is showing interest or care, and lean into that. And it could be someone unexpected, someone new. I would say be open to new friendships, because after I lost my mom and after I lost my dad, I've made really good friendships with fellow grievers that I didn't expect or anticipate. And they're definitely root friends now to this day. But you have to stay open. And no one feels like making new friends when they're freshly grieving. Like no one.
Yeah.
And so that's also draining, and that's valid too. And so if anyone's expressing interest or care, lean into it and focus on that. And also validate that part of you that is disappointed and frustrated. That is a secondary loss. And there's lots of secondary losses we just don't talk about.
Right.
And it hurts just even more after you've lost your person too.
Sure. This might be a loaded question, but in talking about feeling like your community's failed you, feeling that secondary loss, how could any person, whether it be one individual who's someone who's a friend of a griever, or we're talking like a community or a church, how can we do better? So that the griever doesn't feel abandoned.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because losing someone can already feel subconsciously abandoning. And so then when the friends leave, you're like, oh, okay. So it's such a good question, and I love when people ask it. There's a few things that I personally would say and have heard multiple times in session with my clients is just check in. Don't fall off the face of the earth. Feel free to shoot a text that is simply like, I am thinking of you. And even if the griever doesn't respond, like they know someone out there is thinking of them and took the 5 seconds to shoot them a text. Like if that's not extremely extensive work, right?
Right.
And I would encourage people to be mindful of their griever friends, like even past the year mark. Sometimes people fall away after the funeral, and then after 6 months, and then the year, which like, life is so full. Like I hear that. But if you feel close to your griever friend, or you want to even be closer and be there for them, it's so simple as like putting their person's death anniversary on your calendar to not forget.
Yeah.
Or recognizing like when your friend's birthday comes around, like that could just hit different. I think being mindful of them in a simple way as like shooting them the text. I think another thing that's helpful, instead of asking, what can I do for you? Let me know if you need anything, which have really good meanings and motives. But if they're newly grieving, there's no bandwidth. They like don't even know. And I would say be specific. Like, what can you do? Like, what's in your own bandwidth? Maybe that's dropping off coffee, or having time for a walk, or taking them out to dinner, or watching a movie in silence, and then like offer specific ideas. Or don't even offer, be like, I'm dropping off coffee on your front porch.
Yeah.
Like that's simple and really easy, and the griever doesn't have to make a decision, which is really nice. Another thing is just be present and don't feel like you have to fix them. It can be uncomfortable to be there for a griever because you care about them and you're watching them go through really heavy feelings and emotions. And at the end of the day, though, there's literally nothing you can do to bring back their person. And so there's nothing you can do right then to truly take away the ache and the longing and the pain they're going through. And presence is the present. That's a really good present to give people. It's just being still and being with them and letting them feel safe in expressing how they feel, and everyone is so different. Everyone needs different things. Where some people want to talk about their loved one, other people do not want to. They're like, hey, let's watch a movie. I don't want to talk, but I also don't want to be alone.
Right.
Or some people don't want to remember the death anniversaries. They don't want to be reminded, and they put that aside. And I don't come across a lot of people like that, but they still exist. So, and you'll know your friend and their type,
Right.
I think something that keeps people from approaching their grieving friend is they're worried they're like gonna disrupt them or make things worse, but you won't.
You literally can't
You
make it
can't.
worse. Yeah.
You can't. And the truth is they're already thinking about their person all the time to some extent, especially in the early grieving days. So it's nothing new to them.
Right.
You can't make it worse. Like it's
Right.
okay.
That's so good. I loved you saying like there's no right or wrong, but there's a healthy way for you. It's really good.
It resonates so much with the like more high achieving perfectionist clients that I get in.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because they're like, am I doing this right?
Yeah.
Am I doing this wrong? And what do people think? Like maybe I should be crying more. Maybe I shouldn't be.
Right. Or maybe this is gonna come up in 10 years if I don't cry now.
Right.
Yeah.
Or maybe they come over and they're like, they see his shoes.
Yeah.
And they think like, wait, she isn't getting rid of their clothes yet. And so they're fear of judgment, right?
Sure.
And I really do believe like that is my personal theory. Like there is no right or wrong way, but there's a healthy way because there are non-healthy ways to coping.
For sure. So many.
Destructive ways, and it can get dark and it can get really unhealthy quickly. But it doesn't. It's not right or wrong. It's like healthy. And unique to like you,
right?
Because like what's good for you may not be good for me. Like, don't try to force yourself into like one grieving mold because that doesn't exist.
For sure. No, I really appreciate that you said that you can't make it worse. That's something again, like my friend Noah and I talked about a little bit.
Yeah.
I think she mentioned that was struggle for her, and I'm curious if it's a struggle for you.
Yeah.
And she's like, people would come over, and I felt like I didn't have the capacity to help them grieve.
For sure.
And they wanted me to be okay. And she's like, I can't shield you from the fact that I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Like it's like,
yeah.
So it's like, how do you, I guess, and that's just to reiterate, like you have to be okay with the uncomfortable.
You have
just
to.
Sitting in it. And we're not, like, I don't think,
no.
As humans, I don't think we are, but in particular, I don't think as like a lot of people who have faith backgrounds or like in church communities, we're just not good. We want to go straight to they're alive forever. And it's like, sweet, that still sucks for me right now. We just don't want to be uncomfortable.
We don't. And to be a friend to a griever, you're going to be a little uncomfortable because it is the gravity of the situation is not in your control. And just your presence is good enough.
Yeah. No, that was great. I love that you said that. Your presence is the present. It's the gift. It's the best thing that you can give.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, even just in sharing a little bit of your grief journey with your mom and then with your dad.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. Like I watched you from afar.
Yeah.
On online and stuff online where when you self-published your book and you
that's crazy. Yeah.
And you and Kyle were getting married,
yeah,
that kind of stuff. It was it was so sweet, and I was so proud of you to be so vulnerable and share. And I'm just curious because I think there's a little bit of a mixing of things that were very like healing for you, and also your desire to support other grievers.
Yeah,
it sounds to me like your experience in that journey with your mom was vastly different than
so different.
And so I'm curious if you could talk about those two, because it sounds like with your mom, and I know it was a little bit different journey because she had a prolonged battle with cancer.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what the timeline is between when your mom passed and you started blogging publicly, publicly.
Yeah.
Versus like with your dad, you're like, I don't think I can support people anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if this isn't even a very clear question, but if
I feel you though.
Okay.
Yeah. And it also it's such a good topic because it speaks to one how like I'm the same person, but my reactions were different.
Yeah.
And my coping was different and my needs were different.
Yeah. There's quite a gap
And
of time too. So
yeah.
you were the same, but you had grown and you had changed and
Mhm.
you'd been carrying the loss of your mom that whole time as well, right?
Mhm.
All right, I cut you off. So
Yeah, no, totally. And so when I was 18 and lost my mom, I feel like it propelled me. The amount of travel, like international travel I did after my mom died was like so much. My pace of living was very fast. It propelled me to seize the moment. I literally wanted to do as much as I could as fast as possible, like finish school as quick as possible, travel here and go there. Just like my pace was very quick. It almost felt like I had this internal new clock that was like live, live, live because like you don't know when you're gonna die. So it's like a true seize the moment
sure.
Approach to life. That was, I mean, it's fun. Like I was very passionate, go-getter, don't waste your time, do what you want, we're not messing around, you could die tomorrow. Like I understood the reality and the brevity of life at a really young age, even before she died, because she started getting sick when I was 5.
Right.
So the brevity of life, like I understood at a very young age, and that propelled me to live this certain pace for a long time after my mom died and made me want to work with other grievers. um I really miss my mom, obviously. Like we were super close. I was absolutely devastated. It was very hard to process and work through all of that. And I'm always working through all of that. It did not tank me into a dark place like my dad did. And that is not because of loving differently. Like I was closer with my mom, I would say, than my dad. But I grew close to my dad in adulthood, and our relationship changed after she died. And it changed in a positive way. We became closer, which I'm really, really thankful for. Um, I think that losing my dad, I experienced this the complete opposite reaction. Instead of being propelled, I was like halted. And then it was this weird feeling of like when I first lost my mom, I was like, oh, this is really new. I've never lost a parent before. When I lost my dad, I was like, this is eerily familiar. I've lost a parent before. It's weird that I already know this feeling. And I don't want to do this again.
Yeah.
And so it just took me into a really dark place.
Yeah, and the reality of, well, now where do I turn? This is my assumption. I can only imagine for myself, it would be like, all right, if your mom's gone and your dad's become more of a go-to person.
Yeah, my attachment definitely shifted to him in unhealthy ways and healthy ways, but that makes sense. Yeah. I'm so sorry. So yeah, it was just completely opposite reaction, which was interesting. I definitely needed downtime after my mom died, but again, it propelled me and I was just living this fast-paced life. But when my dad died, the amount of time I spent just like in bed, feeling like I couldn't do anything was very new to me because I'm not innately a melancholy person.
Okay.
And so I think, again, it speaks to like you can be the same person and have completely different grieving experiences. And there's variables such as your age or stage of life, your relationship with them, and shock. Like my dad died suddenly. Weren't expecting that.
Right.
And I think after just like losing a parent again, I was like overwhelmed by the idea of having to do this again. Yeah.
So, and it was very different circumstances.
So different.
And I think shock alone would halt you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You said something interesting to me a couple weeks ago.
Ooh, shoot.
I had sent you this list of possible talking points.
Oh, yeah.
And this was the original question, but I'm going to reframe it a little because of your comment. I said, as a therapist, can you give us some advice for the griever and how to grieve well? How about for those around them, how to be supportive in their community? And you said to me, which you've actually been giving us advice this whole time.
Yeah.
About both of those things. But for some reason, when you read the question, you're like, I didn't learn anything about grief in my program.
And
I was like,
definitely,
that is so interesting.
Everything I've said, if I've referred to like my clients, is nothing I learned in grad school though still.
Yeah. Right. Usually like a weekend, Sarah.
I think I had like a weekend class. Probably 1 full day and 2 half days of learning about grief, death, and dying. That's ridiculous because it's like such a universal experience.
Right.
And that's crazy to me.
Yeah. And to me, honestly, this is going to sound kind of weird, but it made me feel like one, because I think sometimes the church is behind on certain things, but I was like, I think culture is behind.
Culture is
like
behind
Western culture, yes. American culture,
yes,
modern culture. I feel like if we go a couple generations, centuries back, yes. they knew how to grieve. They lost people more often.
Yeah, too, that's true too.
Younger and things like that too. That I think they're more acquainted with it than we are now, and the grieving process and how to sit in it, and as a griever, as a friend of a griever, be uncomfortable. But I thought that was so interesting. And so I'm curious if you have any other. No, it's fine. I'm just curious if you have any other thoughts on that.
Yeah. I went to grad school to be a grief therapist, and then only had a weekend class of grief. Grief. Yeah. But obviously I learned more about the brain, right? Sure. And really good points. Really great things in grad school that enhanced my skill set to be there for grievers, but in particular to grief. I don't think I learned anything new about grief. One of my favorite things I did in grad school was write a 10-page research paper on grief, which wasn't even in the grief weekend. I just got to write a research paper, whatever I wanted, my last quarter. And that was really great. And again, culture is behind. Back in the day, people wore ribbons or things around their arm to show that they had just lost someone. And widows or parents were socially given a certain amount of time to have grace on their space and their grief. So let's say you lost your husband. Culturally, socially, you have 3 years and you can wear that ribbon and everyone knows. And oh wow, and now you get how many days or weeks off of work? That's insane.
3 days bereavement, everyone, if you don't know.
It's ridiculous to think you can pivot, and that is the bar. Because that's just unrealistic.
Yeah.
So don't even get me started. I am glad I went to grad school, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And it's interesting because you started by saying basically I went to grad school so that I could legitimize what I'm already doing.
Right.
So
that's true.
It's because you're like a cat hitting this wall of where people be like, what are your creds?
Yes, exactly.
And so I think it's so interesting. But I also hear your passion of I want people to know and to be more awareness about this topic that is so universal because, and I mean, really the truth is we are all going to grieve at some point because you're a human being. And, we were talking about you losing your parents.
Right.
But there are all kinds of losses in life.
Exactly.
And, but at some point you are going to lose someone significant to you.
Yeah.
Because, again, we're humans.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important just to kind of have the weight of this. If you are trying to walk with a friend or with a spouse or with a family member or a community through deep loss and you're not sure why you can't find good resources, this might be why. Or if you're like, what do I do? It's because we haven't been taught how to do this. It's okay. So I guess now I'm just speaking to whoever's listening to the podcast. It's okay if you don't know what to do.
Exactly.
Our culture isn't taught how to do this. Yeah. It's different than I know we've been in a cultural moment where everyone's standing in solidarity for something. That's different.
Yeah, that is different
than this. And I think so just hang in there. You can do it.
There's a lot more resources now than there were when I was 18, for sure.
Even 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And if you're willing to learn how to be there for a griever, or you're willing to learn about grief, there's a lot out there now. I would say I learned a lot more from obviously my lived experience, but some really good books out there by neuroscientists or researchers, about grief and the brain and the body. I learned so much on my own time reading.
What would you say are your top 3 books you would recommend someone?
It depends, like, who am I talking to?
I love how specific you like to
Because
be.
there's so many things. Like,
You're
am I
talking to me,
talking to
Cece. I'm just
a
kidding.
friend of a griever or the griever?
Okay, let's do both. Let's do the first couple books that come to mind for the friend of a griever
Okay.
and then for the griever.
Okay, you're gonna laugh because I have even more things. Because
I love it.
there's so many good books, but I think timing is everything.
Okay.
And so I recommend books all the time to my clients. So if someone comes to me and they're in their first year of grief, I recommend Good Morning. Morning spelt like your morning,
Yeah.
like grief. It's such a good book that is digestible and has good visuals, which is really important when you're newly grieving and your brain is not working well.
Okay.
So I love that book for new grievers. And then I think another book for new grievers is It's Okay to Not Be Okay.
Yeah,
It's a
I
good
know
one.
that one. Yeah.
And then other books I really love, if you are further into your grief and you lost a mom, Motherless Daughters by Hope Edelman. And I don't recommend that right away to motherless daughters because it's pretty intense and it's a deep read. I don't think I finished it till 7 years later. I think I like picked it up, couldn't read it, picked it up, couldn't read it. And then I finally picked it up, read it. But it was, yeah, probably 7 years after my mom died. It was just really raw.
There's certain things you don't want to face.
Yeah, you're just not ready.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You have
Yeah.
to listen to your timing. So
Yeah.
Motherless Daughters is so good for people way down the road, maybe like after 5 years. People who just like to know and love learning, like me. Mary Frances O'Connor, she writes The Grieving Brain.
I've heard of that one.
And she just came out last year with I think The Grieving Body. I could be totally not saying those titles right, but the gist is how grief affects the brain, and then the other one is how grief affects the body. And it's fascinating. I love that one. And then C.S. Lewis has a really good one about losing his wife. Is that observing?
A grief observed.
A grief observed.
Yeah.
A grief observed is so good, in my opinion, not just for people who have lost a spouse. And then A Grace Disguised by Jerry Sitzer. Oof.
A Grace Disguised.
Yes, that one is so good.
Okay.
There's honestly so many though.
Oh, there's but that's a really great. So what I heard is 3 categories. One,
Yeah.
you're in early grief.
Right.
Okay. Then the other one is if you're a few years into grief.
Yeah.
And you've lost a mom. One, and then the grieving brain is just if you just like learning.
Just love information.
And then I heard a grief observed and a
Grace Disguised.
Grace disguised.
Mhm.
Grace disguised for people who are trying to support grievers. Or just learning about grief.
I would say for grievers.
For grievers.
Yeah. I think yeah. I guess you could read all of them if you wanted to just learn about grief too. But I think those are like the top ones that come to mind.
Okay. No, that's great. I will link them.
They're
in the
so
notes
good.
for everybody.
They're so good.
So, and yeah, a grief observed and It's Okay to Not Be Okay came up in the last episode too.
Awesome.
So,
yeah.
It's always good to know. It's like check, like
Yes.
you're speaking to people.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll ask just a couple more questions. So, Cece, from your experience, what do you think was helpful for you when you were in the epicenter of grief? Like, we're talking, you're in the ashes of your dreams, right? And I know that's different for your mom.
Yeah.
Your mom versus your dad, very different. So answer however you would like to. And this is just your personal experience. I think hearing story and hearing people's experiences opens up. I think it helps us, helps me.
Mm-hmm.
It helps open up to the possibility of like, oh, wow, that's somebody's story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
you could see myself in that.
Yeah. Or it's like, oh, I didn't know that's how it could be for somebody,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Whether either you see yourself in it or you didn't know.
Yeah.
And so anyway, however you want to answer, mom, dad, whatever.
I think the first thing that popped in my mind, and it's a common thread for both of the losses of my parents, is the people that just showed up for me, like made the most difference. Mm-hmm. They didn't even ask for a question or anything. And the examples are during my mom's last week of life, she was in hospice and I never went home. I was 18 and slept at the hospital like the whole week. And during times when my mom was having problems physically, it would get really intense and my dad would leave the room and not handle it and I would stay. to comfort my mom. And it was getting really heavy and hard. And her last night alive, I kind of just was like, Lord, I need support. I just don't want to do this by myself anymore. And not that I was, my dad was totally there, but he would just step out during hard times. And she was definitely vividly at the end and on morphine in hospice, you know. And my friend texted me and said, I'm coming to you tonight and I'm gonna spend the night with you. And I was like, I don't sleep. I'm literally sitting in a chair. Are you sure? She's like, I don't care, I'm coming. And she drove from downtown LA to Simi Valley and just came and sat and laid on the ground with me. And that was my mom's last night. And then the next day my mom died and my friend was there with me too. And again, an example of she felt prompted and she leaned in on that. And it was exactly what I needed. And then with my dad, I had a friend's mom, just like kept dropping me off soup. Shout out to Rita.
Rita!
Yeah, she's like, I was like pescatarian, and she's like, but bone broth. You need protein. Just drink bone broth.
Sounds like Rita. Oh, Rita, I haven't seen you in so long. I don't know if you'll ever listen to this, but hi.
And I feel like I literally survived off of soup and popcorn during those first few months after my dad died. And I didn't ask Rita to make me soup. She just kept dropping me off soup.
Did.
She's like, even if you're not gonna eat it, here it is. And then my friend, she I was my dad's, passing was sudden, and in the middle of the night we went to the hospital and he was actively, yeah, dying in front of us and going downhill, and for lack of a better word. And my friend, who I've known since I was 18, who has lost her dad as well, she checked in with my husband to make sure it was okay, but met me at the hospital to my surprise and was like waiting outside of the hospital when my dad died. And I get emotional thinking of it because it was just so sweet. And my poor husband, he had to really just like pull me out of the hospital to leave. So he could like really just transfer me over to her and help carry the load, like a true visual of community and carrying the load and transferring me to her and just like holding me outside the hospital. Yeah.
Sweet.
And she didn't ask me. Of course, she verified with my husband, just like,
right.
Oh, are you there? Like, she doesn't,
Yeah.
would you want, or make sure also if I needed anything else. And so she verified with him to an extent, but she had a bag packed in case she needed to stay with me for a week or whatever. And just showed up to my surprise. So as I walked out, she was there and I was just like, jello and a mess. So yeah, people, and you have to have that trust, I think too, like to know your friend that's grieving, and just also to trust your gut and your intuition, and if you sense it, there's probably a reason that you might need to drop off soup or might need to just show up or text them at that right time, because you just literally don't know what that was doing for them on the other side.
Sure. I think sometimes on the outside people second guess,
Oh
or
my
they
gosh,
think
for
they're going
sure.
to impose themselves.
Totally get it.
And I think honestly, I think we assume people aren't going to say if we're overstepping.
Yeah.
But most of the time they will.
Mhm.
Like her reaching out to your husband, like, hey, can we show up? And I think sometimes people assume like, well, they have a spouse, they're okay.
Totally got assumed all the time.
Yeah,
Yes.
but your spouse is there.
Yeah.
But you need more than one person
Yeah.
in your life, and
Yeah.
and your spouse needs
Can't be all for you.
support too,
Yes.
right? And the reality of your husband has been there with you, and it's,
Mhm.
I'm sure there's still even things that have to happen at the hospital
Mhm.
that your husband can help take care of, but
Yeah.
he can't hold you
Yeah.
and do that at the same time.
Yeah.
So there's just so much more, I
Yeah.
think, in it than we realize
Yeah.
sometimes. And so I appreciate that reminder of like, okay, going with your gut,
Yeah.
also knowing the relationship you have with
Trust
the friend
them,
and
yeah.
trusting them,
Yeah.
and knowing like worst case scenario, they're like, hey, this isn't a good time.
Exactly.
And so I think you have to be okay with rejection. I think any
Yeah.
like a huge theme, I think, for me, and like just like living and doing life with people is like being, oh, sometimes you're gonna like hear no.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean they're not your friend.
Exactly.
You know, and so just realizing, and that doesn't mean they don't need you tomorrow.
Yeah.
It just means like, hey, right now in this moment,
Yeah.
I can't, yeah.
Yeah, and that's secure attachment. Have secure attachment with
Right.
your friend, you know, to
Yeah.
know enough that if they said no, like they don't hate you.
Right. They don't hate you.
Yeah.
And they don't, and you didn't do something wrong.
Right.
And like, actually, like, they probably need you in a couple weeks.
They
to
will.
check on them.
They will. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
it's really sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely encourage people, don't overthink it. Like,
Yeah.
just show up.
Yeah.
And
So good.
the worst is you turn around.
No, for sure.
And then
Totally.
they can't be mad at you for loving them so much that you just showed up.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So good. Thank you for sharing all that and for
Yeah.
taking us into the depths of your heart and the depths of your loss
Yeah.
and how you're walking through it, how you're supporting people. One question that I like to ask people is what community means to them.
Ooh.
But I would say for you, like, what does community mean to you through the lens of grief?
Like everything. I think it is vital.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think my approach and belief and theory is, I don't think we are meant to grieve alone. I don't think we have the capacity or the bandwidth. I think we can bring each other so much healing.
Yeah.
And we can lighten the load for others, you know, like we talked about, just because I have a spouse doesn't mean I didn't need support, because Kyle's helping me and that gets tiring. And so it gives him a break, or he can do something else to support the situation. So I think community is everything. And that unfortunately it could shift and change, but it's also an opportunity to find out who your root community is.
Yeah.
So, and I've seen the benefits of a very sustainable community, and I've experienced the disappointment of community that kind of fizzles. At the end of the day, everyone in community is just human.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think it is everything. When I think about grief and being there for others, and what is important is meaning, like having like in our healing journeys, what's important. I think meaning is important. Mm-hmm. Not like you need to make meaning out of this.
Sure.
But having some meaning in life is really important for healing. And I think sustainable community is really important for healing. So
it's really good.
Yeah.
So good. I feel like I just need to take a
deep breath. Welcome to the grief space. What I talk about every day.
Oh, man. Thank you so much for sharing your heart. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for asking, putting it out there.
Yeah. And we may or may not have a follow-up conversation.
Oh, you guys open to it.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for leaning in and listening to part 2 of our series on holding space for grief. I hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed my conversation with Ceci. I hope that whatever you're doing right now, whether it be driving in the car or cleaning your house or going for a run, maybe that's just what I do when I listen to a podcast. I hope you're encouraged. I would love to hear how some of these concepts are sitting with you, so feel free to reach out. Also, feel free to reach out if you want to chat. I would love to hear what you're doing in your life to connect with the people around you. Would love to hear what's working for you, what's not working for you, what your pain points are. Feel free to reach out. Send me a DM, email me, shoot up a flare, do whatever you got to do, but reach out, okay?